02:14 in the morning, most of Bahrain is asleep. The streets are quiet. The Gulf is calm. And inside a dimly lit command shelter on the island, a radar operator stares at a screen that has looked the same all night. Until one small blip appears. Low altitude, slow speed, bearing northeast. At first, it almost looks like clutter, the kind of weak radar return operators see from birds or distant civilian aircraft. The object is crawling across the radar at about 110 knots, barely faster than a small propeller plane. The operator keeps watching. 8 seconds later, a second contact appears behind the first, then a third, then 6 more. Within half a minute, the radar picture changes from empty sky to a small formation creeping across the Persian Gulf. They aren't aircraft, they're drones. Specifically, Iranian-built Shahed 136 drones, cheap, long-range kamikaze weapons designed to fly hundreds of miles and crash directly into their targets. Each one carries a small explosive warhead, not huge, but more than enough to tear open a building, ignite fuel, or rip through living quarters. And the radar track shows they're heading directly for one place: Naval Support Activity Bahrain. 8,000 American personnel live and work there. Sailors, pilots, technicians, and their families. Some of them are asleep in barracks just half a mile from the perimeter fence. The radar operator calls it in immediately. They're slow enough that a small training plane could outpace them. The problem is cost. The Patriot missile system defending the base fires MIM-104 Patriot interceptors, specifically the advanced PAC-3 variant. Each one cost around $4 million. The drones approaching Bahrain cost maybe $30,000. Shooting a $4 million missile at a $30,000 drone is like swatting a mosquito with a Rolex watch. You can do it, but the watch isn't coming back. And the commander knows something else. If Iran sent drones first, something bigger might follow behind them. Every interceptor he fires now is one he won't have later. But protecting the base and the people sleeping behind its fences isn't optional. He gives the order. Engage. A launch canister erupts open. A PAC-3 interceptor explodes out of the launcher, trailing a pillar of white exhaust. The missile is 17 feet long, narrow like a guided telephone pole, and it accelerates to Mach 5 in under 2 seconds. Unlike older missiles, it doesn't rely on a traditional explosive warhead. Instead, it's a kinetic interceptor. A 700-pound guided projectile designed to smash directly into its target with pure velocity. The drone never sees it coming. 1 second, the radar track exists. The next, it vanishes in a flash above the harbor. Debris falls into the water. Another interceptor launches. Another drone disappears. Again. The Patriot crew works through the swarm with mechanical efficiency. But the drones keep coming. Because Iran didn't send a dozen. They sent enough to force the defenders to keep firing. What the Patriot crews don't know yet is that these drones were never meant to hit anything. They're bait. While the batteries remain focused northeast, intercepting the swarm approaching over the Gulf, something else is already falling toward the base. From directly above, a Fatah-1 warhead drops almost vertically through the atmosphere, Mach 13. Too fast for visual detection, too steep for the Patriots already tracking the drones. It slams into a service facility just 130 feet from the command building. The explosion shakes the base. A second ballistic missile arrives seconds later and destroys a satellite communications dish nearby. 2 hits. Out of everything Iran launched at Bahrain that night, only 2 weapons land. The damage looks dramatic in photographs. But operationally, the impact is almost zero. The destroyed satellite dish is only one of several communication systems used by the U.S. Navy's 5th Fleet. The base still has HF radio, UF satellite links, secure military networks, data links connecting aircraft and ships across the region. Within minutes, the communications reroute automatically. The fleet keeps operating. From a military perspective, it's like someone cutting a single landline in a house that still has cell phones, satellite internet, and 3 neighbors sharing Wi-Fi passwords. The air war continues. Across the Gulf, 50 miles away, radar operators at Al Udeid Air Base are watching something much larger appear on their screens. Inside the Combined Air Operations Center, Dozens of officers sit at consoles surrounded by giant digital displays. They coordinate the entire regional air campaign from this building. Nobody leaves their chair when the warning appears. Missile launches from Iran. At exactly 03 local time, the first ballistic tracks cross the Qatari coastline. They aren't alone. Another wave climbs behind them, and another. The missiles arrive in stacked salvos designed to overwhelm missile defenses. A Patriot operator acquires the first track 40 miles out. The computer instantly calculates speed, trajectory, and predicted impact point. 2 seconds later, the engagement is confirmed. The launcher fires. The upgraded missile is faster, more agile, and equipped with tiny steering thrusters that allow it to make microscopic course corrections at hypersonic speed. 80,000 feet above Doha, the interceptor meets the incoming warhead. For a fraction of a second, two objects moving toward each other at over 8,000 miles per hour occupy the same point in space. Then both disappear in a flash. The intercept converts them into a cloud of fragments drifting slowly through the upper atmosphere. Another interceptor launches immediately. For 90 seconds, every incoming missile meets a Patriot on the way down. The operators fire, track, confirm, and reset in a rhythm drilled through hundreds of simulations. Most of the Iranian missiles never come close to their targets, but one of them carries a maneuvering re-entry vehicle. At 30,000 feet, its small thrusters fire, shifting the warhead's path just enough to slip past interceptors already committed to the original trajectory. 2 warheads and a low-flying drone get through. An early warning radar is damaged. A section of the flight line is cratered, and still the base continues functioning, because the radar on the ground is only one sensor. An airborne Boeing E-3 Sentry orbiting overhead immediately takes over the tracking job. Backup systems replace damaged ones. Concrete repair teams move toward the craters. Inside the operations center, officers barely pause. The air campaign continues. Iran has just hit the command center directing the war against it. And the war barely notices. Farther north, however, the night sky over Kuwait becomes something else entirely. Radar screens at Kuwaiti and American missile defense sites suddenly fill with targets. Ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, drones. Wave after wave, stacking together in a barrage of hundreds. The operators quickly realize they're facing the largest combined missile attack any modern defense system has ever encountered. A Patriot operator locks on to the first incoming Shahab 3 variant descending through 60,000 feet. 2 interceptors launch 8 seconds apart. Standard procedure. If the first misses, the second is already on its way. At 40,000 feet, the first missile collides with the warhead. Flash. Track gone. The second interceptor, already airborne, self-destructs automatically. 2 missiles spent, 1 threat eliminated. And there are hundreds more. Launchers fire again and again. White contrails climb into the darkness. High-altitude flashes scatter debris across the sky. Ground crews work frantically behind the batteries, swapping empty launch canisters and loading fresh ones. Every few minutes, another salvo arrives, and every few minutes, the Patriots answer. The engagement continues for 3 relentless hours. No pauses, no mistakes. 380 intercept attempts, 380 successful kills. Not a single missile reaches its target. It's a level of performance missile defense planners rarely even simulate. But physics still extracts a price. Every intercepted missile breaks apart somewhere. Most debris falls harmlessly into empty desert. Some pieces land near supply areas where troops are loading equipment. Medics respond to minor injuries caused by falling fragments. The damage isn't from failed defenses. It's from the unavoidable side effects of destroying hundreds of weapons in the sky. Farther south, another defense system prepares for its own test. At Al Dhafra Air Base, radar detects 2 high-altitude ballistic tracks inbound from Iran. This is exactly the scenario that THAAD was built for. The launcher fires. A single-stage rocket carries the interceptor upward, through the atmosphere, through the troposphere, through the stratosphere, up into the thin black edge of space. At 60 miles altitude, the nose cone separates. The kinetic kill vehicle, roughly the size of a basketball, flies free. Infrared sensors lock onto the descending warhead against the cold background of space. Tiny thrusters adjust its path. 2 objects converge at hypersonic speed. They meet 60 miles above the desert, and both disappear in a flash bright enough to photograph from the ground. second interceptor destroys the second missile. Over 300 Iranian weapons were aimed at the UAE that night. Not one reaches a target. And Lockheed Martin F-35 Lightning II pilot sits in his cockpit running pre-takeoff checks when the sirens start. 49 projectiles are inbound. Ballistic missiles and drones. A nearby THAAD battery launches interceptors. Patriot missiles streak overhead. One explosion shakes the ramp close enough for the pilot to feel through the landing gear. Smoke rises near the runway. His orders remain unchanged. He pushes the throttle forward. The engine roars to life. 43,000 pounds of thrust push him back into the seat. The jet accelerates down the runway while missile intercepts flash overhead. He rotates into the sky. His first target is an Iranian command relay deep inside the country. Coordinates arrived minutes ago through Link 16 data links. He climbs east, drops precision weapons, returns to the same base still under threat, and prepares to do it again before sunrise. He isn't the only one. 60 American aircraft launched from that base during the night. F-35s, Boeing FA-18 Super Hornet jets, tankers, support aircraft. Ground crews patch runway damage between launches using rapid-set concrete that hardens in minutes. Weapons loaders attach bombs while interceptors streak overhead. Iran aimed 49 weapons at the base using targeting data from commercial satellites detailed enough to identify individual aircraft shelters. The intelligence was accurate. The strikes still failed to stop the aircraft. Meanwhile, in Iraq, militia groups launched drone attacks on American compounds near Erbil. These drones are even cheaper than the Shaheds. Small propeller aircraft launched from pickup trucks. Their engines are loud enough that defenders sometimes hear them before radar detects them. One operator at a defensive gun system waits for the radar confirmation. The target appears. He activates the phalanx CIWS. The 6-barrel 20mm cannon spins up, 4,500 rounds per minute. The drone disappears in a burst of tungsten rounds before it reaches the perimeter. Another drone approaches from a different direction. Destroyed. Another. Destroyed again. 16 attacks are launched that night. None reach the base. But the final escalation happens far out at sea. Iran launches ballistic missiles toward an American carrier group in the Arabian Sea. At the center of the formation is the massive aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln CVN-72. The carrier turns sharply, presenting the smallest radar profile possible to incoming threats. Around it, destroyers and cruisers equipped with the Aegis combat system begin tracking the missiles before they even reach the top of their flight arcs. Intercept begins in space. SM-3 interceptors launch vertically from destroyers. Their kinetic warheads collide with incoming missiles above the atmosphere. Lower waves are handled by SM-2 interceptors. 2 drones flying just above the water slip past the outer defenses. The carrier's RIM-116 rolling airframe missile system launches 2 small interceptors. Both drones are destroyed. Not a single Iranian weapon reaches the ships. 15 minutes later, the carrier's flight deck becomes active again. Steam builds in the catapults. The Air Boss begins launching aircraft. The first jet rolls forward, a Super Hornet loaded with 4 2,000-pound bombs. Its target, an underground Iranian command bunker, responsible for coordinating the missile launches. The catapult fires, 0 to 165 miles per hour in 3 seconds. The jet disappears into the night. Then another launches, and another. 14 combat aircraft depart the carrier in 9 minutes, every one of them carrying precision weapons. Iran's largest missile barrage has bought exactly 15 minutes of quiet flight deck. Now the response is already on the way. Not missiles, not interceptors, but bombs.